This is the final part. The last way that we can prepare ourselves and be ready is, according to the book, is a prayer for watchmen. I looked up this word to try to pronounce correctly in Hebrew. I can't remember it honestly, but the Hebrew word for watchman is svafa. Look it up. You can do much better than I can. But the meaning behind it is very, very fascinating. If you read in Isaiah 62, 6 through 7, God calls for watchmen, but this has a very historical piece to it. That is super important in Israel's history. The fact that there would be watchmen at the city gates watching for enemies, protecting the city, ready for invasion, making sure that they were doing their jobs, and their job was to be awake enough so that they could do their job. But the Hebrew word for this means to lean forward, to peer into the distance, and by implication this means to observe, to behold, to spy out, to wait for, and to keep watch. Now, it's really interesting. While this book talks about a call for prayer for watchmen, if you go back a couple of chapters to Isaiah 56, 10 through 12, God actually really calls out Israel's watchmen, and he's like, you are terrible watchmen. It's actually quite a scathing review of the watchmen. And I will let you read that passage by yourself, but there are three ways that he says, as leaders, as watchmen, as both physically and spiritually, you are not doing your job. And he says three ways specifically. Number one, they are blind, meaning they're supposed to keep an eye out for their enemies, physically and spiritually, but they are not. Number two, they're ignorant. They lacked the knowledge of the surroundings. They lacked the knowledge of what was happening, to the point where they were unable to see or perceive, to discern, to distinguish enough to be protectors. The third thing is that they were mute. They were called to not only see the enemy, but they were then called to alert the people when there was danger on the horizon. But when they saw these things, they did nothing about them. And this was incredibly dangerous physically, but also there's a spiritual truth to this, that the leaders were blind, and that they were ignorant, and that they were mute. That there is a spiritual darkness that the New Testament talks about, that we don't fight against flesh and blood, that we actually fight against principalities of darkness. And I wonder if we are blind, and we are ignorant, and we are mute because we are not accessing the weapon that we talked about in the last chapter of prayer. We can't see because we've not asked for spiritual eyes. We cannot think because our minds have not been renewed, because we've not been praying for a renewed mind. We are mute because we don't have the courage or the ability to speak up, because we have not been in prayer. We are not connecting with God. And so specifically when it comes to this end of the age, when it comes to Jesus's return, we are highly unaware, and we are very much quiet about it, where we should be watchmen who are ready for the coming of Christ. We are not blind. We see it. We see it as a very near future. If not in our lifetime, it is getting closer day by day, no doubt about it. That we are not ignorant of the signs of the times. We are not ignorant of God's plan of return. That we're able to discern and distinguish truth in a time where truth seems to be like a vapor. That we are not mute that we see the enemy's attacks, but we don't politicize it. We speak spiritual truths. And this is all because we are in prayer and we are able to do this in the Spirit's power. And so what I want you to do in closing today is to look and ask yourself about your spiritual eyes, your mind, and your mouth in relation to prayer. And then I would like you to pray at the bottom. It has several things: for endurance, for sharpness of mind, that you are rooted in truth, and that you have eyes that see spiritually. At the very end, I have an act challenge. I love the song "Is He Worthy" by Chris Tomlin. This has brought me to tears multiple times because I feel like this is an all-encompassing, kind of like the big circle that we started from the beginning of creation. Is He worthy of all blessing and honor and glory and power? Yes, He is. And then all throughout the process of God sending His Son to redeem mankind, and then ultimately to see Him seated on the throne. Is He worthy? As the angels bow down to Him, is He worthy of this? Yes, He is. And so what I want you to do this week, and my act challenge to you is to use this song as a prayer. And then also, if you would send this song to one other person and write a prayer for them and send it to them, I encourage you to do that, to continue to start a grassroots type of movement, that we are involving more and more people praying, not just for Anchor Church, but for the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ, and that we are excited about it, that we are involved in it, and that we are ready for His return, because we are on our knees, waiting for Him in anxious anticipation. Thank you.